So I know I'm a bit late to this one, but obviously Meghan McCain went on Seth Meyers' show and they had a discussion about all this anti-Semitism thing, or alleged anti-Semitism in the Democratic Party. And Meghan McCain has been banging on about this loads. I don't really know why, because the right love to talk about this sort of stuff. But she was talking about, you know, how Ilhan Omar and these Muslim congresswomen and stuff, they've been promoting anti-Semitism and the Democratic establishment have been defending them and stuff, which I don't believe, because Nancy Pelosi threw them under the bus and stuff. McCain is clearly an idiot and she's very ignorant, and I wouldn't really be taking the moral high ground if I were her. When you had a parent and a grandparent who oversaw the Vietnam War, and her granddad was very instrumental in overseeing this brutal imperialist conquest of Vietnam, you know, killing millions of Vietnamese peasants and stuff. So I don't think she should be relevant because her two relatives fought in an imperialist war, but you know, that's the state of American politics and stuff. But I'm just going to read something specifically where she's talked about British politics. So, you know, this is kind of where I come in as a British person. So she was blaming Omar for that, you know, synagogue shooting lately. I don't know how that linked because it was a right-winger who did it. So it's more linked to someone like Donald Trump and Omar. But then she went on to say, I think she is bringing her party to the extremism on this. And I think we have to look to Europe and what's happening over there, and that there, you know, in British politics, anti-Semitism is very common. I see it happening over there. And I worry about it happening over here. I stand by every single thing I've said, and if that makes me unpopular in this room or in front of you, then so be it. So I've made a video debunking this anti-Semitism thing before, but what McCain actually means is that she doesn't want American politicians to actually start criticising Israel in a meaningful way. Because as I said in my video before, the Labour Party has some problems with anti-Semitism, right? And it doesn't always deal well with it internally. But it has been blown way out of proportion. But literally, like, the BBC and all these news outlets have been banging on about it for ages and ages, giving all these voices to people who call Jeremy Corbyn an anti-Semite, all these different things. And why you can see the hypocrisy is that the Tory party is so much more racist, especially towards black people and Muslims. You know, the Windrush scandal, right? It was similar to a lot of the things that's happening with ICE in America. People were being deported back to the Caribbean after coming to the UK in the 1950s and 60s. They essentially lived here their whole life, but some weren't British citizens, and there was other things that complicated their citizenship. And they were being deported to countries they'd never really seen before, or countries they'd left when they were children. And that was overseen by the current Tory government, and Amber Rudd, who was the Home Secretary, she had to resign. But now she is back in the government. That is a proper racist scandal that the media just swept under the rug after, you know, maybe a couple of weeks, right? The Jeremy Corbyn stuff has been going on for ages because he criticises Israel so much. You know, everyone's saying, oh, he's best friends with Hamas and Hezbollah, he loves the IRA and stuff. That's obviously a smear job against Corbyn. And obviously he's worked with groups like Sinn Féin and stuff in the past during the Troubles to try and help get peace in Northern Ireland. And as we see a lot of the times, people like Bernie and Corbyn are always on the right side of history. But I want to make the point, Corbyn does not say things that are that much different to Bernie Sanders. But why does Bernie Sanders not get smeared as an anti-Semite? It's because he's a Jew. But you know for certain that the right wing would smear him all the time for the things he said if he wasn't a Jew. But they know they can't touch him because he's a Jew criticising Israel, where Corbyn isn't a Jew, so it's easier to just call him these things, even though numerous high-profile Jewish figures have come to his defence saying the notion that Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic is insane. So there are small problems within the Labour membership sometimes in dealing with anti-Semitism, and I've also made the point about a lot of members of the British Labour Party often come from Islamic countries, and sometimes that can influence the way they talk about these issues. And I think some things Omar said were a bit, you know, insensitive and buying into some anti-Semitic tropes, but she apologised and said she'll learn and move forward. But Omar also criticises Saudi Arabia all the time. She's a Muslim who criticises Saudi Arabia way more than any Republican. And the notion that is because she's a Muslim, she somehow is only criticising Israel but no one else is absurd. And it shows you how bought and paid for a lot of these Republicans are. You know, Omar's comment about the Benjamins may have been insensitive, but Nancy Pelosi basically feeding a member of her own party to the wolves, you know, feeding her to the right wing to smear non-stop, all the death threats she gets. And then Nancy Pelosi then goes on to give a speech at AIPAC. And, you know, you really think that these people aren't influenced by the Israeli lobby. The same way a lot of American politicians are influenced by the Saudi lobby. It's the same with Chuck Schumer, right? I know Chuck Schumer is a Jew as well, but he supported Donald Trump moving the US embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. And he's a democratic leader. Does he not know how inflammatory that is to the Arab world at large? Moving the embassy to Israel, legitimizing their claim that that's their capital, Jerusalem, where the Palestinians want East Jerusalem for their capital if there's a two-state solution. Something that the US used to actually be working on, but clearly isn't. Now Donald Trump is so in bed with the Israelis. And obviously Jared Kushner has a lot of investment. Trump's son-in-law has a lot of investment in things like the West Bank settlement. So it's not anti-Semitic to point out these things. Omar's language was a bit insensitive, but she's going to learn from that. But it is disgraceful the way the Democrats have fed her to the wolves, and people like McCain are just drumming up this hysteria. And what is so annoying, that what people like Nancy Pelosi and Chelsea Clinton did to Omar is they allowed Meghan McCain to go on TV and say all this stuff, and it's up to someone like Seth Meyers to try and defend her. But why is Meghan McCain suddenly the spokesperson for all Jews? You know what I mean? Who is she? Some stupid voice on The View who has relatives who fought a genocidal war against Vietnamese people. Great, I think you should be so respected with your irrelevant, stupid opinions. I think it shows how ridiculous American media is that someone like this even has a prominent voice just because, their granddad was a high-ranking general and their dad was a senator and some sort of war hero, even though the only thing he was heroic for is sort of, when he was captured, helping with the lives of his other men. But what he did before, bombing people in Vietnam, that's not very heroic, is it? But yeah, to sum up, Meghan McCain is essentially terrified that the Democrats will become like the Labour Party, not in the sense that they're all anti-Semites, because I guarantee you, most of the Labour Party aren't anti-Semites, and it's been way overblown, and that's coming from someone who's reported on this stuff for the last 3 years, who follows it, pretty closely. Not like Meghan McCain just hearing it for some right-winger, who use it as just a hit job for Jeremy Corbyn because they hate him so much. She doesn't want the Democrats to become like the Labour Party because then people will wake up to what Israel is doing, right? Criticising the right-wing Israeli government and the actions of the Israeli government isn't anti-Semitic. I don't know how many times it has to be said. Because even though it is a nation of primarily Jews and stuff, not all Jews are from Israel, not all Jews identify as Israeli, not all Jews support Israel. So to say that you're anti-Semitic just for criticising Israel, I think is more anti-Semitic, than actually criticising Israel, because you're just saying all Jews are supportive of the right-wing Israeli government. And Donald Trump said to just a Jewish congregation, your president, in terms Netanyahu is your president because you're Jewish, so you must have allegiance to Israel and Netanyahu, even though they're American. And that just shows you anti-Semitism is rife on the right, not on the left. And then you look at all these things in, all the synagogues that get shot up and stuff, all the anti-Semitic attacks, like proper physical violence, are they ever done by left-wingers? Like some sort of white left-winger or some American Muslim and stuff? Does this ever happen? It doesn't. It happens in places like Israel sometimes. Palestinians obviously attack Israel because that's an ongoing conflict. It doesn't happen in Western countries. You don't get Muslims attacking synagogues. You don't get left-wingers attacking synagogues and stuff. Because anti-Semitism has always been right-wing. The only reason it changed was because of the Israel-Palestine stuff and the communist support for the Palestinians. That's why you saw a lot of anti-Semitism in Stalinist Russia, even though, of course, that is historic anti-Semitism, but communism is meant to be where everyone is equal. But Stalin really, inflamed that stuff because he hated Israel. But traditionally, whether it's the Nazis, whether it's the Romans, whether it's the Christians, whether it's the Crusaders who killed loads of Jews, anti-Semitism has largely been on the right wing, and even today it is largely a right wing thing. The times when it gets brought up on the left wing is because of the Palestine issue, and a lot of the times it's more just ignorance of the language used, like Ilhan Omar. Is she actually an anti-Semite? No. Did she buy into some anti-Semitic tropes? Yeah, she did. But she's not an anti-Semite, do you know what I mean? It's just that whole issue has kind of distorted her language. And one more point, I think Donald Trump is one of the biggest anti-Semites in the country, saying that George Soros is funding the migrant caravan at the border, so it's racist and anti-Semitic, because obviously Jews control everything in Donald Trump's mind. They're funding some caravan that has nothing to do with George Soros or any Jews, and they're funding it just to upset America. And all this stuff about George Soros, wherever you see it, is pushed by the right wing. You don't see any left-wingers pushing this stuff about George Soros, a Holocaust survivor. And Donald Trump's pushing that in public. Donald Trump saying that Netanyahu is all Jews president. But Ilhan Omar and Jeremy Corbyn, they're the extremists, according to Meghan McCain, who props up a party that are fundamentally racist and anti-Semitic. And their support of Israel is not based on their support of Jews. It's based on the support of crazy biblical prophecies known as the Apocalypse, where Jesus will come down and kill all the enemies of Christendom, and they'll all get raised up into New Jerusalem with everyone who's died and stuff. but Jews will die in that thing. So Jews will die in this nice apocalypse. But apparently the Christians that support Israel, just for this reason, they're not anti-Semites. But Ilhan Omar, who just supports, human rights and everything, and she'd use some, maybe not some appropriate language, she's the real anti-Semite and racist. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. If you like the video, please leave a like and maybe subscribe. If you want to find me on social media, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Cavernacle. If you want to read some stuff I've written, maybe go on my WordPress blog, and that is just The Cavernacle WordPress. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.